Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having us. We're so
Yes.
excited to be here. I'm going to share my screen. Oh, Molly, do you care to let me share my screen there? It says host disabled participant screen sharing.
All right, let me go.
We wanted to include some visuals as we talked. Perfect.
Did it work?
Yes.
Great.
Oh, goodness.
What?
Well, okay. Sorry, this is on our end here. Okay. Click. Will not be able to record the contents of your screen until. Okay. Should be able to go, and then if this doesn't work, we'll just go with it. Let's see. Okay. Okay, do y'all see our screen? Perfect. All right, great. Well, I'm Jamie Hurd, and I'm one of the co-founders and executive director of Faithfully Restored, like Molly said. And I just wanted to take a few minutes at the beginning and share some of my story. I know our title is Grief and Finding Joy, and there's a lot of different ways you can experience grief in a lot of life situations that will lead to grief. And so some of you may identify with my story, but I hope what you will take is no matter what you are going through, that there is a way to find joy in it. And my husband and I'm from Pennsylvania. He is from Alabama originally, grew up in Tennessee, and we met at UT in Knoxville and got married after he graduated law school. I was a teacher and have taught for the last about 15 years. And we got married in 2008 and had our daughter Madeline, and just were enjoying life. 2 years later, had William. I was one that I got pregnant right away. Honestly, I don't even know if it might have been the first month for both kids. And so got pregnant. We had Madeline and William. Madeline was 4 and William was 2. And I was at work one day. Daniel was at work, and we had a nanny at our house. And we actually nanny shared with Jamie Hamilton, and her son Jack was over at our house. And I get a call from work that William had choked and he wasn't breathing. And oh, geez. So when I got that call, I immediately, I'd grown up in church my whole life, and when I was 25, my dad committed suicide right before we got married, and that really challenged my faith. And after that, after I found counseling and a way to kind of process that, it took several years, but I had really clung to God's faithfulness and his plan for my life, and I was praying God's will. And that morning when William choked, I had kind of spent some time extra in praying God's will to be done. And when I got that call, it was almost as if God had given me a piece of knowing he's not going to be okay, but it is going to be okay. And I feel so thankful that he did give me that peace and strength. And we went to the hospital, and there's William when he was 2. And we went to the hospital, and as soon as I saw him, his heart wasn't beating and he looked like he was sleeping, but I could see an emptiness in his eyes that I just knew he was already with Jesus. And we had always said in our house, we always ask our kids, like, who made you? And they'd always say, God made me. And I honestly knew where he was, and he was home. And so as the doctor started working on him to try to get his heart to start beating again, I was kind of rehearsing a prayer. I thought, all of these doctors and nurses are going to hear of this child dying and watch this child die, and they're going to lose faith. And like, why would God let this child die? And it was the last round of medicine that the doctor came over and said, this is our last thing we can do to try to get his heart to start beating. And it did start beating again. And they transferred us to Vanderbilt and had him stable. And there was never any brain activity, but he was stable. And so I was so confused as to why his heart started beating and how it would all end. We had incredible support. And one thing I can tell you, and this is at his funeral, Daniel's stepdad stood up and said it and said, it's not if something is going to happen to you, it is when. And something will happen. And when it does, where is your faith and who is surrounding you? And I'll tell you, we had we had plugged into a church, had an amazing church community around us. My school community was great. We have amazing friends. And it made all the difference when something like that happened. And the hospital was packed and everything. And I remember sitting there being surrounded by all these people and thinking, what happens now? All of these people are here. What happens? And so the next morning we met with someone, and he was called the What's Next guy. And he presented us with the option of organ donation. And it immediately clicked. Daniel and I just kind of looked at each other and thought, okay, yes, if William's life can save one person and give parents like us 6 minutes or 6 days or 6 years with their child, we would do it. And it kind of, that was an answered prayer. So many people were praying for us to be comforted. And a lot of people, honestly, I never prayed for a miracle. I had such a peace that he wasn't going to make it, which I know sounds weird and terrible that I didn't even pray for him to make it, but I honestly had such a peace about it. Now, not to say it wasn't hard, but I just never thought he was going to come back from it. So, and he never had any brain activity. And so, as we're going through it, when we're presented with organ donation, it was an answered prayer as to, okay, our prayers can now shift to as him helping as many people as possible. And our faith was kind of challenged during this. And so we said yes to everything when we were presented with organ donation. And it turned out we overheard people in the hospital say that his heart was going to Chicago, his kidneys were going as a block to North Carolina, and his liver was going to Texas. And so when we left the hospital, he choked on a Friday. We left the hospital on Monday, and it kind of gave closure because with organ donation, they turn off the ventilator halfway through the surgery. And so it provided closure as to we're not deciding, when to turn off the ventilator. And so anyway, we get home, and the next day, all my friends are over there, and we're putting together these boards and stuff. And someone comes to me and says that they think they know where William's heart went. And through a friend of Facebook, we figure out that William's heart went to an 18-month-old girl in Chicago. And they had a video, we watched a video and we watched William's heart being taken from the cooler, and a surgeon put it in Ava and said, "Welcome to your new home." And I wrote the mom on Facebook and connected with her. And it's been amazing. We're best friends with them. We travel with them and do trips and spend holidays with them. And in the midst of all that trial and grief, there are moments of joy and spark if you let yourself be open to them. And as painful as it was losing William, I knew that I didn't know God's plan, but I trusted it. And having Ava and being connected with them is just a little spark that I feel so thankful for, and such a gift. I mean, they say organ donation is a gift, really meaning for the recipient, but it has been such a gift for us in our healing process to watch Ava grow up. This is our daughter Madeline, with Ava hearing William's heart, and it's it's a really cool and neat experience. This is Ava recently. And then after a year and a half after, we kind of thought our family was done after Madeline and William, and then didn't have plans to have any more. And after losing William, Daniel and I both felt that we wanted to have another one. And so we decided to have another one, and we had little Annie. And it was after a loss, being pregnant again, there's grief in that, and there's struggle and heartache in that, which is a unique thing to go through. So it was hard, but it brought so much joy to then have Annie too. And here's a little family. Annie is 3 now. So one thing that I will say, after losing William, we had Madeline, and it was so important for us to show Madeline that what we believed in our faith was true. And she was a very mature 4-year-old. And it was as if, like, I remember laying in bed one day and thinking, like, I need her to, like, do I believe what I have taught my children, or do I not? And if I do, then I believe I know where William is, and I trust in God's plan. And whatever it is he has for me is gonna be good. So I was thankful to just lean in, and the only way that I'm here and sharing is because of my faith. And honestly, in my utter weakness and not knowing what else to do, just leaning on God. So that's a little bit of my story and sharing my family with y'all. And we are, best friends and have been through this together. So as you hear Jamie's story, this is all kind of as I had my kids, that's when, she was trying to have kids. So it really, it just really is helpful to have friends that you can lean on and that you can open up to and walk alongside, because we're meant to do life together and in community and not alone. So
yeah. Hi, I am Jamie Hamilton. I think that what she just ended on is so true. I mean, just hearing her tell her story, and now we're in Faithfully Restored, so we share our stories often, but her story just never gets old. My heart just aches. I remember sitting at the hospital with her when she was dealing with William's loss, and just wishing I could take any bit of pain away from her. It just was so hard, but I can tell you firsthand, it was such an honor and such a special thing to walk that journey, because it was God. It wasn't her. And it wasn't Daniel, and their strength was just of the Lord. But a little bit about my story. I was one of the lucky few, I feel like, that get to marry their high school sweetheart. So Chris and I started dating when we were 17, and we dated for 7 years until Chris graduated college, which I was not very happy about. I wished that he would have been proposed 2 years prior. Anyway, but so we got married, and we got a house and got a dog and did all the things, and then felt like it was time to try to have children. And I honestly just really thought it would be a super easy process. And so we started trying, and month after month kind of goes by, and I'm not pregnant. And at this point, I sort of had a very odd ovulation cycle and kind of all of that. But I still just kind of thought it would be easy. And so 6 months kind of into it, I remember waking up in the middle of the night, and I just woke Chris up, and I was in tears. And I said, I really think there's something wrong. And he was like, what are you talking about? At that point we were 27, and I shouldn't be worrying about it. And I said, I think I'm just going to call and make an appointment with my OB. And so I did, and I went in, and I know my sister's on this call, but she said the same thing. She was like, no, just go in. All they can just do a whole blood panel. They can just do all the things there. Not a big deal. And so I go in and I do that. And I get a call back and they're like, well, you do kind of have some things going on. And they're like, and your husband needs to go do a sperm analysis. And I was like, what? How am I going to like go tell him that he needs to go do a sperm analysis? And so he goes and does that. And then I get a call at work and they call me and they're like, we don't have great news. They're like, he pretty much has 0 sperm. And I remember thinking to myself, how am I going to go home and like tell my husband this? Like, I'm literally going to have to go home and tell him this. And it was awful. I actually called, which this is terrible. Like looking back, I wish I would have done this, but like I called his mom. And I called his mom and his sister, and I just was like, I don't know what's the best way. And I would not do that again, but that's okay. Anyway, so I went and I told him, and I remember sitting that night and we just kind of were crying and so upset. And I remember just praying though, and we prayed and God just told me that night, he was like, I've got you, like breathe and just do the next step. I remember just thinking, okay, what do we have to do next? So we went to Nashville Fertility and did a bunch of testing. And at that point, hormones were good, all the things were good. And so they were like, well, we can do a surgery to see if we can find anything. And then I had a few things, so I needed to do a surgery. And so we kind of worked on all of that for about 9 months. And after one last kind of surgery, our doctor came out and said, I'm sorry, but there's really pretty much a 0% chance that you will be able to have children. And that was awful. Like I remember driving home and just thinking, what are we going to do? Like all I wanted to do was be a mom. I mean, I can't remember a time when I didn't want to be a mom. You could have asked me when I was 16. I didn't really know what my career choice was going to be or what path, but I knew I wanted to be a mom. And so it was hard. And I had to sit in that, and I had a lot of days and a lot of weeks that it was hard. And then I had quite a few friends tell me, including Jamie Hurd over here. She was like, I think that you should go to a counselor. And
I'm all about counseling.
yeah, counseling. Everyone go to
All
counseling.
around.
Yes. And so I found a really good counselor that specialized in infertility. And that was by far the best thing that Chris and I did. I mean, because we were definitely not on the same page with what to do next and what that would look like. And one of our counseling sessions that just was so profound in changing just my attitude and trusting in God was I walked in one day and I just was so sad. I felt like everyone around me was pregnant. I think I threw 6 baby showers in like 6 months at my house. And I always made sure there was like champagne or something, which was probably not okay, but I just sat down and I just told her, I said, everything else feels like plan B. I said, like doing a donor feels like plan B, adoption feels like plan B, just everything felt hard and was not what I wanted. And I think, as most of you can relate, infertility is such a difficult thing because it's almost like singleness. It's like you have to still do something about it. I mean, the stork isn't really going to drop a baby, at your front door. And so I kind of told her that, and she just sort of looked at me and she was like, I think that God has a plan the whole time, and that this is not plan B, this is plan A. Like this is just you kind of releasing all of your control and putting your hands out and trusting that God has got this and just stepping into the next step. Even though even choosing what we chose didn't even feel comfortable, honestly, until I had a baby in my arms. It was just trusting. And so for us, we chose adoption. And I'm trying to figure out these slides. So we adopted our son Jack in 2013 domestically from Florida. And oops, that's my dad. Okay. And that process was a whole nother difficult situation. I mean, it's just so, there's no control. I mean, you can check all these boxes. You can say that you want to be there right when the baby's born. You can do all the things. And, it just doesn't usually work out the way that you want it to. And usually it's better than you ever thought it would be, though, hindsight's kind of always 20/20, but Jack has such a cool little story. We got matched with him. He wasn't in September. He wasn't supposed to be due until December 16th or around then. And we flew down to meet his birth parents October 26th, and she went into labor that night. And it was nothing but God. I mean, our birth mom would even tell you that. It was crazy. We got a call at 12:30 at night, and it was from the adoption agency, and they were like, we hope you're still in Florida. And we were like, yeah, we are. And they were like, because she's in labor. And it was crazy. I had pretty much had the clothes on my back, and that was it. And we ended up being there for almost 5 weeks. And so my parents came down and brought clothes and had to bring my car. And it was just every bit of crazy. But through that, it was so cool to see how our community just wrapped around us. When I got home, all my friends, I didn't have a nursery really ready. I didn't have really hardly any baby things. I hadn't had a baby shower. And all of my friends had like this little online, like before there was like a Zoom baby shower to have, I pretty much had one. They did all my returns for me. If anything I had that were doubles, they did all my thank you notes. I walked in and my house, my mother-in-law was in tears. She was like, I just have never seen anything like this. I never had friends like this. All my bottles were washed and my whole entire fridge was stocked. And every single room, I swear, had like baby stuff already set up perfectly, and it was incredible. To this day, it just brings me to tears, just how much love there was in that room. And so from that on, then we ended up adopting Stella, and Stella is 4 years old now. We adopt her from Florida as well. She's from Amelia Island, and got her when she was a newborn. So her birth mom went in labor and called us. We got there about 10 hours later. And she is a little spitfire of energy, and she's precious, and we are beyond blessed. We did not really pick or choose that our kids would somewhat look like us, but they do, and it's just crazy. Yeah, they are seriously the biggest blessings ever. But I say that, and I could not tell you how I just never thought that I would feel this much joy and this much happiness looking back at how I was like the day I found out we couldn't have kids, or going through the adoption journey until that baby was in my arms. I always tell people that. I'll get texts all the time of people who are either dealing with infertility or adopting, and it's like, is it this hard? Should it be this hard? And I'm like, it is this hard until there is a baby in your arms. Like it's hard. So I don't know how we get out of this to get back on our live screen. Okay. So out of that though, I think the coolest thing that has happened through all of this, I think that when something difficult happens to you, oftentimes you end up sort of getting in a club. It's usually a club that you don't necessarily want to be in, whether it's child loss or cancer or divorce or whatever it is that you're going through that is really difficult. You kind of end up feeling like there's always an elephant in the room, sort of. And so for me, it's been such a neat thing. I am such an open book. I will share anything with anyone. And so it's been really cool now that my husband and I can go, and we've probably had dinner or taken people to coffee, probably 25 different couples that we don't even know. It's people that just hear my story and they're like, hey, I know someone that's adopting. They don't know anyone, or I know someone going through infertility and is considering adopting. Would you mind talking to him? And I'm like, yes, of course. And I really think it's at least 25 couples that we have sat with and taken. And even for my husband, I can just see the healing that it gives him. It is such a sweet little place to now pour into other people, and to be able to kind of share them our story and be able to tell them this isn't it. The sadness and all the things that you feel, they are real, and you should be feeling those things because they are so hard. But there is joy and there is happiness, and there are those things. And kind of like what Jamie said, choosing, to choose joy that day though. I mean, even I just had someone write me and they were like, I'm just really struggling today. And I was like, well, you need to go do something for yourself. Like self-care is so important on those days, you need to feel all that. Or if you don't want to go to a baby shower, don't go to a baby shower. I mean, like no one's forcing you to go to a baby shower. Don't go to a kid's birthday party if you don't have a kid. Like you don't need to do that. So take care of yourself. There's something really good about that. And so for Jamie and I, because of kind of we're in those clubs, it's like we would talk to each other and be like, oh my gosh, will you pray for this person? I know that they just lost a child and they would love, to connect with you or whatever. And so Jamie and I, and then the other two co-founders of Faithfully Restored, Heather Milburn and Jenny Rebecca Springer, started Faithfully Restored literally from just our houses. We decided to kind of get together and put all of our prayer requests down on sort of a list and send care packages every month and pray for people. And so we started this 2 years ago.
Mhm.
And it really was probably just a list of 20 people. And we just would send care packages and pray. And then the next month we would get more prayer requests, and then we get more, and then we get more. And so we got to a point where it was like, oh my goodness, like there's so many people without community and so many people that need prayer. And you don't think that small little things make a difference, but I can tell you firsthand, I remember going to work like the Monday after I found out that we couldn't have children, and I had the most beautiful orchid and card from someone, and it was just a Bible verse, and it just said, I want you to know I'm here for you anytime, like you are not alone. And I just needed to hear that, like you are not alone. It just meant, it made me be able to get through the whole day. I mean, just an orchid. And I thought, I want to do that for people. Like I want people to know, whether it's something small I'm doing or something big, that they're being prayed for and that they're not alone. And so we started Faithfully Restored, and we went and got our 501c3, and we didn't even really know what that was.
Someone asked us, why did you decide to be an actual nonprofit as opposed to an organization? And we were like,
yeah, we don't know.
We don't know. Actually, it just seemed like the next step to do.
Yeah.
We're like, so when people donate, of course, no one was donating. It was all our own money. We're like, when people donate, they can write it off as a tax write-off. We're like, we don't have any donors, but maybe someday.
But it was definitely just a dream that we just trusted to God. It was like, all right, Lord, we're going to just give this to you, no matter how big or small this is going to be. We just want to be able to encourage people. And so the 4 biggest ways that we do that are, I think the coolest thing that we do is we match prayer partners. And so we will get a prayer request that comes in, and another thing we like to do is we want to remind people it doesn't have to be something that feels so heavy or big. Everyone's problems are something. I mean, it doesn't have to be losing a child or infertility or adoption or cancer. It could be anxiety. I mean, we've gotten so much anxiety, especially this year. I mean, I'm not even naturally someone who deals with anxiety, but this year has definitely caused anxiety, And so it could be that, it could be divorce, it could be anything. I mean, parenting is hard. We'll get some, and it's just like, we had one not long ago, and it was like, I haven't spoken to my children in 2 years. It was like an adult parent. And it was just, whatever you're going through when you feel alone or you want a prayer request, it means so much more to have someone praying for you that has gone through something similar. And I mean, I'm sure all of you guys can relate to a point, like I had
just like this group too.
Yes,
I mean, that's the point of you guys coming together, is because people within that group know how you feel. And as much as my close friends could be there for me, I connected with Jenny and Rebecca after I lost William in December. And then 6 months later, Jenny and Rebecca lost her 8-year-old Hayes, and someone connected us. And the depth of our friendship and just the weight of the words that we can speak to each other and the openness is powerful and meaningful. And what you gain from, the people within this group and their experiences, I mean, is important and can be exactly what you need when someone knows. It's not someone that, when I say to Jamie, like, God's plan, like whatever God has for you, it will be okay. Well, here I had 2 kids, and I have no idea what she's going through. And not to say, some words aren't appreciated, but connecting with someone that has gone through or knows, and all situations are different, but we found is really powerful.
Yeah, it is for sure. So we match prayer partners. We send care packages. We send gifts. And now we're to a point where we actually do have donors and we have money, which is cool. So it's really fun. Like this Christmas, it was really neat. We got to send, over 40 women who have lost a family member or lost someone this year. We sent them Christmas care packages. We sent single moms. We sent them gifts. We helped 2 families in particular do Christmas for their families who lost jobs or lost husbands. We're paying for someone's college, just things that are, it's so fun. And it's such a joy and it's so healing for us to be able to give back in that way. And it's really cool. We also love to, we want to support each other and have community events. Right now it's a little bit difficult, so we have Zoom events, but we really love to have events. And am I missing anything?
No, through our website, we take in prayer requests, and our main thing is to meet the need of whatever it is. So for example, I'm not sure if she's on the call, but I had posted in one of your groups, contact us, and we want to really meet the need. And so Jamie and I were talking earlier, we don't just give out money to people. And someone I met with the other day was like, how do you kind of check the background? Because we got an email the other day and it was like, here's my Venmo. And we're like, yeah, we're not just Venmoing people here. But we would, so, I said, what for adoption, what might that look like? And we like to, or I said infertility. Sometimes with adoption, in the waiting process, we'll send baby gifts, and just because I never would have thought that. I honestly would have thought that was a little cruel. But Jamie's like, those women want to be moms. If they could have been a mom yesterday, they would. And so to know that in the waiting, you're being prayed for and loved, and they will be a mom. And so that's one of the coolest things with adoption, is to send a baby gift and know this is hard. In the waiting, it's hard when you're pregnant and someone has a baby shower, but when you're adopting, it's always this time. So we were kind of talking, what might this look like for infertility? Meeting the need of if someone's traveling for a transfer, taking care of a hotel stay, or the different ways. We love to just take in a prayer request, and sometimes we'll call that person, and sometimes we'll email back and forth and figure out how can we best serve you. And like Jamie said, it's been so neat now that we have donors and money coming in. And that's why our donors donate, is because they want to see their money and us be the hands and feet of Jesus, and to know that people are loved and supported in these difficult times. So it's hard to explain all of what we do, because we really on an individual basis try to support you, whether it's you need to be loved on now, or maybe it's, we had someone that last summer lost her 15-year-old, he drowned. And then so we kind of have supported her throughout the year and prayed for her. And this summer she contacted us and said, I would love to be a prayer partner. I'm ready to, although my prayer would be that no one has to go through what I went through, I'm ready to help someone else that is going through it. And in that is so much healing. Like Jamie said, selfishly for us, doing this is so, I have the best job ever that I get to do this. And I've truly felt called away from teaching to do it. And I'm so thankful for it. So we really just kind of try to meet the individual needs and serve that woman the best way possible.
Yeah.
So.
And I think for y'all, that is something where, we want to know what's going on in your lives, we would love for you to go to our website, and we would love for you to enter a prayer request, and for us to know what's going on and to know where you are in your journey, whether that's you're getting ready to have a transfer, or you're, going to have a surgery or whatever it is. And if you want to have a prayer partner, like specifically be matched with someone who's been through that wants to love on you and encourage you. I mean, we want to do that for you. We're so thankful to be able to be a part of something like this, because this is exactly what we do.
Yeah, this is like the heart of
Mm.
who we
How
serve.
do-
how we
That
wanna
was so good. How do people, if they do want to do that, they go to your website and then click on where?
Get involved, I believe, and then it says submit a prayer request. Or you can, or if you want to sign up to be a prayer partner, I mean, maybe you're a little further and someone contacts us and say, I just found out that I can't have children, or I just found out X or whatever. All of that can be done, I think, under the get involved.
It's get involved.
Perfect. That was so good. I know a few of y'all want to say a few things because you've been chatting, texting me. I'll just open it up. Y'all want to go on and ask them a few things, or any comments you want to share with them? Goodness, I don't have a lot of words, so y'all go ahead.
Don't be scared.
Yeah, please don't. I know some of y'all are about to, because y'all are sitting there. You just got to unmute yourself.
Okay, I'll go first. This is Caitlin. I just want to thank you both so much for sharing your stories, because it's wonderful. And I actually have a vision of starting a nonprofit as well, and have been working on a book, Find Joy in the Journey. Long story short, we have a son through IVF, so I understand the infertility side of that as well. And thank you both so much for doing this for those who may not have children or are unable to. I know there are a few on here that do not have children yet, and I can't imagine that, but thank y'all both again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, who next? Who's next?
I have a question.
Yes.
And y'all forgive me because my connection is like cutting in and out. So hopefully I can get through my question. But thank you guys so much for sharing your story. Both of y'all, like, it's, both of them are just beautiful stories, but also just stories of tragedy. And I just appreciate your vulnerability and just sharing that with us. I want to just ask, and I think this is why it's so important to have people praying for you too, because I feel like there are days where you can't pray for yourself.
Mhm.
And I've had a lot of days recently that are just, I just feel hopeless, and I feel like our plan A will not end well. And so I'm wondering, outside of relying on your friends and your family to hold you up in prayer on those days where like you don't even have it in you to pray, what do you do? Like, I know Jamie mentioned, okay, you need to find joy in this day. You need to choose joy and just choose that, like, it's, you won't be down, or you will find some kind of joy. But I feel like there are days where that's just impossible. And so I'm just wondering what advice you might have for those mornings where you wake up feeling like that.
I mean, I honestly think you need to have days like that. I think that you need to really sit in that sometimes. Personally, I mean, I think that some days you just can't choose joy, and that's okay. You can be okay with not feeling like you can get out of bed. And I mean, I know for Jamie Hurd, there will be moments. I mean, William passed away 5 years ago, and I still will have moments where I'm like, okay, she's not returning my text for like 48 hours. Like, I'm about to go show up at her house and like get her out of the bed. I'm going to give her a minute, but then it's like time to get out. And so, I mean, I think it's okay to have days like that. And but on top of that, I think that you just need to also either like do some self-care, whether that's, go get a pedicure, go on a date night, or depending on what your personality is like, you might just want to be by yourself. That's okay. But whatever it is, I mean, self-care is really important. And praying, I mean, just so many prayers. I mean, but you also just need to know, I mean, it's okay that it's hard. Like, it's not every day is beautiful. Not every day we choose joy. I mean,
yeah, I think the important thing, I agree. I think it's okay to have days like that. I certainly do. I think the important thing is to have someone praying for you on those days and to be open, texting friends, I'm really struggling with this, or I'm just really struggling today. I think it's important. And sometimes even when I do that and ask for prayer, it's maybe I've even built something up in my head more. And when I get it out and have people praying for whatever reason, my emotions kind of soften a little bit. And I also agree with whatever that looks like for you. Jamie and I are a lot alike. So we like self-care, we like massages, and we like overnights by ourselves at a
Yes.
hotel.
Yes.
But I think some people don't. And so I think you need to think, and then I think the enemy would love to make you feel in those moments that you don't deserve those things and that your problems aren't as bad as you think they are. And that's not from God. That's not his desire for you. And so I think opening up and letting people pray and really just being okay with, okay, I need to take care of myself. What does this look like? And knowing that by getting a pedicure, you're not solving all your problems, but it's maybe what you need in that moment, and that's okay. We're pretty good about.
Our husbands would say we're too good,
Yeah.
probably, about self-care.
Yeah.
I'm like, I gotta go tomorrow and for 8 hours and get a babysitter and not work and be by myself.
Yeah, like the be by yourself thing. And for me, it is, I need time where no one else needs me. I don't need even my husband. Like, it is just, I need to be only dealing with my emotions, what I need to do, whether that's cry or whatever. So take the time to do that.
And I think the problem with infertility, I was going to say this and I forgot earlier, but I think it is such a silent thing to go through that people don't really know what to say. It's like, I think I felt that way a lot of times. It was like, you're excited to tell people that you're going to try to have a baby, and then X amount of months goes by and it doesn't happen. And it is just this very lonely, silent place to sit in. And I really do think counseling is huge. So if you do get to a place where, you're just really, really struggling and you need someone outside of even your friends to like talk to, I really encourage you to do that. And that's one thing Faith
I was going to say
Restored,
that's something we offer too.
is paying for counseling. I mean, we really believe in counseling, but I know how expensive it is. And to us, that's really, really, really important.
So good. Anyone else have anything else they want to add? Alexis, not to call you out. Max, you want to
Yes.
go? Go ahead. Okay, either one.
You go ahead.
Go ahead, Max. Come on.
Ew.
Fish out of water here. Sorry.
Good, Max. I love it.
First of all, just thank you guys both for your stories and sharing. And it's certainly not an easy thing to do, with your friends and family. But I wouldn't necessarily call it strangers, but you understand what I'm saying. It's another thing entirely to kind of share with people that you can't necessarily put a face with just yet. Just a little bit about Brooke and I's story. Both of us, we're high school sweethearts. Whoop whoop. So we started dating when we were in high school, and I went to UT Martin. And both of our fathers, I kind of dealt with death my whole life. When I was young, all my grandparents were deceased before I was like 8 or 9, and I only ever kind of knew my grandmothers. My father died when I was 19. Her father died when she was 13 after a 5-year battle with cancer. So I won't necessarily say we both had kind of broken homes. We had love, everything like that. We had some extenuating circumstances, but so for her, it was kind of all, hey, let's do this whole family thing. I have 4 older brothers who have all had kids, and it was nieces and nephews, and it was Christmas, and so I had plenty of experience trying to halfway pretend to raise a kid. Mm-hmm. So when we kind of started our journey, went into it, and really we were always careful when we were younger. We wanted to prevent pregnancy. Come to find out that it wasn't going to work out for us anyway. So Brooke has PCOS, and we kind of researched some things and looked at some stuff. Long story short, we ended up getting pregnant on medication, and about 6 months in, we lost Madeline. Madeline was our little girl. She had placenta abrupta, and so Brooke's appointments. We actually had an appointment 4 days before we lost her.
Wow.
So her blood pressure had been. Her blood pressure spiked. She was stroke level. Really and truly, honest to goodness, she's lucky to be here. Doctor pretty much told me that. You know, he came to me and said, you know, I don't necessarily have a medical reason why she's here. So I very easily could have walked in with 2 people that I love and walked out with none. So I'm very grateful. Now, in our own experience, and I can't speak to anybody else's, going through infertility first, you know, obviously everything that we've been through first, and then going through infertility, and then the loss, you know, I'm not going to be shy about it. It has certainly taken a toll, or had taken a toll on our marriage, has taken a toll on our marriage. And the biggest thing that I can say is or the biggest thing I can equate it to is we're just different people. Not necessarily that we don't have love for one another, that we don't share love for one another. But one thing that we experienced is she carried Madeline and lost Madeline.
Yeah.
I had to be there. And one of the big things that I struggled with, because I'm Mr. Fix It. That's my job. I got to fix. So I spent probably the first 6 months after our loss just trying to fix everything. And it took me a long time to realize that this was something I wasn't going to be able to fix. And so about 6 or 8 months in, when, you know, my primary focus was just, hey, what can we do for Brooke? What can we do for Brooke? And she started to gain a little bit of her independence back, I kind of had to take a hard look at myself and realize, hey, this is, you know, oof. One of the big things that she had is she found support. You know, I think that women, I'd say maybe in the past 30 years, there's been a humongous boom in infertility talk and loss talk and everything like that. And so there's a lot of resources available, I think, primarily for women. And that was good. And I was so proud that she found that. But one day I looked at her, she was trying to figure out what was going on with me. And I told her, I said, you know, you feel like you're alone and you have all these people to speak with and all these, I don't have anybody. I don't have, you know, there's not, I looked for different things, and I never just found anything that was right for me. I did, you know, we have some friends of ours that lost a 9-year-old, and I called him one day, probably 4 months in, and I was like, you know, what do I do? I said, I hate that I'm calling you. I hate it so much that I'm calling you. And I don't wish it was anybody I was calling, but he was literally the only individual that I could speak with that was somewhat understanding of something similar to what I was going to. And that's another thing that we struggled with, is just finding individuals. You know, we've got great friends and great families, but finding individuals in our lives that have been through a similar experience. It's not that your friends or family aren't good sources of support. It's just difficult when, if you haven't been through it, you genuinely don't know.
For sure.
Hard to put yourself in that mindset. So I think that's very important. To speak to what one of the other individuals spoke about, as far as having bad days, have bad days. Absolutely 100% have bad days. We both struggle. I have heavy addiction in my family, and so does she. And so in the beginning, we were very hesitant to not necessarily rely on medication, but be open to medication for anything as far as anxiety or depression or anything like that. So that was a learning curve for all of us too. But overall, I mean, absolutely have your bad days. Just at the end of it, try to have more good than bad. And your grief, I always describe it as basically you're sitting in a kiddie pool and it's waves. And so sometimes the waves float with you and you can float with it, and sometimes they crash on top of you. So, but again, thank you guys so much. I know I've rambled for a moment. I apologize.
Yeah.
Loved it, Max.
Thank you all so much, and really appreciate it.
We, my husband and I, so the first night at the hospital, Williams, they have him stable in a room, and we go to our little room thing. And I told Daniel, like, I think we can make it through this, but we need to do it together. Like, I can't have you leave me. And he was like, what? And he, he's like, our child is back there on a ventilator and you're like, why? And I knew how hard it was going to be on our marriage after a loss, and the statistics are staggering. After a loss, the divorce rate, and we immediately went into counseling. And that, I mean, you're not alone in being a guy and being a fix-it person. I mean, you're called to be the head of the household, and you hold that weight and responsibility. And so that I definitely can relate to it being, difficult, and on your marriage. And that's, I think, again, counseling together when you're going through something where you have different ideas or you handle things differently and everything. It just helps to have a professional help you.
Well, and I needed my counselor to like look at me and like kind of call me out and be like, you don't need to expect him to be like feeling the same things that you are feeling every single day, and that kind of happened for us, which was probably a good thing. It was like, I'd have a good day and then he'd not have a good day. And then it was like, somehow that sort of just happened where we'd kind of pick each other up just enough, and that was such a blessing. But I probably did oftentimes just want to fix things quicker for him than he was ready to do, and vice versa. And so yeah, just communicating that, like, I'm having a bad day. I just need you to know, like,
Yeah.
In our long-term plan also, we plan to do, I was trying to see if one of our board members, I was trying to see if she was on there. Her husband he calls it Don't Forget About the Dudes.
Yeah.
And we even at our board retreat talked about, we would love to eventually have something for men, because like you said, a lot of times the husband is supporting the wife has all this support, and the husband's kind of left, in the back. So
Yeah.
stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Max, I would love to personally ask you if there's any way you could just pray about it, and just if you would be willing to just jot some of what you shared just on paper of like from a male's perspective. There are so many in our group where they're struggling with male infertility, husbands just being there for their wives, and they are just literally terrified to say anything because they don't know what to say, or they feel like this is just a female issue. Even our government, I mean, that's what they tell us, is this is a woman's issue. And I'm like, no, baby, this ain't a woman's issue.
Yeah.
This is a male and a female and a couple's issue. Like,
First up,
so if you just feel like, I'm just saying, if you would like to share some of those thoughts, there is nothing more than I would love to actually be able to just give a platform for that voice, because sometimes just that, getting that off of you is so good.
A dude group.
We could totally do that. I'd help you just create the group, and then you got it.
I'm kind of a goof anyway. So when we first found out we were pregnant, we were like a year and a half, 2 years into infertility when we first found out we were pregnant. So we both work at school. I was working at Covington at the time, or I still am. And I've got one of my friends that works up there. She teaches the FCCLA class, so she's got the pregnant belly. So in my faculty meeting, like an idiot, I decide to announce my pregnancy to my faculty by walking in with my pregnancy belly. And I've got video and pictures and everything like that. And it was, they threw us a baby shower, and it was good to have all that support and those ladies that I work with. But yeah, I've certainly considered it, and I don't know. I think maybe there's such a stigma against men are supposed to be this.
Yeah.
I mean, I do all the same things, and it's not anything crazy for me to think like that. It was just it was the best way for me to cope and to deal with everything during the time. So
sure, well, just think on it, pray
absolutely,
on it.
I will. Thank you.
Alexis, you want to go real quick, and then we're running out of time, so go ahead, Alexis.
Please excuse me, I'm already in my pajamas. That's why I did not want to show myself the whole time.
Yeah.
But thank y'all both for sharing. Seriously, I've had tears in my eyes the whole time. And I can definitely relate to the infertility side of things. But as Jamie heard, you were telling your story, I was like, I know this story. Like, I have heard this story. I know it. And so I got to thinking, and one of my best friends works at Vanderbilt Children's Hospital.
Okay.
In Nashville. And so I texted her and I was like, okay, I swear I know this story. I know it's super public, blah, blah. And she said, yes, that's the little boy. And so she worked there, or she still works there, and she was involved in your son's surgery.
Oh, wow.
And so
So
she just said her precious son left a forever mark on my heart.
Oh.
And I just knew, I was like, we were just texting. I'm like, God is so cool. Like, how crazy. I had no idea. And then you start telling your story and I'm like, okay, I know this, and I don't know, it just blew my mind. So
Thank-
I just wanted to say that and thank y'all.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. I mean, it really, hearing little things like that are so encouraging. I was talking to a mom today that in 2012 lost her 4-year-old, and I just said, I know more people will be in heaven because of William, and on those hard days, like what more could you want as a mom?
Yeah.
Even though we only had him for 2.5 years, the impact that he's had, this is not our home. And I always
Right.
tell myself that. And what feels so hard on long days is hard, but it is a blink of an eye to eternity. And so thanks for sharing that. It's really encouraging.
Thank
And
you.
can I just say how great it is Christina's on this call? I was watching her when Jamie was sharing her story, just like wiping her tears. And like, I just know some of us have siblings that have announced recent pregnancies and just how hard that is just from a family's perspective. And like, just looking at her now, it's going to make me cry. But I just think there's a lot of beauty in that. And I just really appreciate you, Christina. I don't know you, but I think it just means a lot because some of these people, they're just hurting so bad. And their family is just announcing pregnancies and the Christmas and the New Year's babies that's coming and the COVID babies that have happened from COVID. And life is so, so beautiful, but it is so hard at sometimes. And I know some of these people on this call, some days it's like you just barely can come up for air. I felt that way at times. I just can't even catch a breath because I'm so distraught. And so I think I just wanted to tell you, Christina, I just kept watching you and I don't know. I think it's awesome that you're here supporting her. So, yeah.
I love her
So
a lot.
Look, our Christine's crying too. I know. Oh my God. A few little things really quick. If y'all, and please, like Jamie and Christina, I'm making a slideshow to hopefully to have for like legislators to see. We're working on obviously infertility legislation. It's a huge part of our mission because we don't feel like people should have to sell their houses or take out loans to treat the disease of infertility. And it is an uphill battle in the state of Tennessee. We're working and could ask for giant prayers if we try to find our bill champion in the House and the Senate. It has been pretty difficult and some days just plain out exhausting because you get no's after no's because they don't like insurance mandates. And yet we're just trying to grow families here and treat a disease. So we could definitely all use prayer for that. And then also, what was I just going to say? I was going to say, oh yeah, the slideshows. So if you, on our website, we're doing 8.5 by 11 white pieces of paper. Y'all, please jot something down, whether it's your disease, infertility is blank, anything you want to say. And we're trying to make a slideshow of Tennesseans just advocating and that we can show and that it'll be something that'll just grip to somebody and just have an emotional tie. So if you have not sent me that, please do. Christine Richmond says, I'm a huge mess. I tried to stay on, but your stories pulled my heartstrings. I could not survive the video. Thank you for sharing. Christine just won a grant raffle and she will be doing IVF at NFC 2021. It is her year. So we are excited.
Yeah.
And Sonia won a raffle or a grant as well. So we're really, really excited. But I just hope that this was just refreshing to y'all that are just struggling, that these ladies have just taken the time to just share their journey with us and how they have taken something just that seems almost near impossible. I can't even imagine. I know what it's like to lose a child in the womb, but I can't even imagine what it's like to lose like a child outside the womb. So I just love y'all. I love your mission. I love your heart. And I just don't have the words to say that could adequately express just how grateful we truly are. So the world needs more people like y'all. And
Well, we're here for you.
yeah.
We contact us, and we would love to support you any way we can, whether that's praying for you, whatever it is. We're here for you guys.
And Andrea, Andrea Kraft, y'all. She's on here. I want to say this really quick because her story, it deserves to be told, but she had a stillborn son, William. And she said, I couldn't get my video up. I'm a ball of tears. I lost my son, William, for full term in April and really appreciated this. And he had a knot in his cord. And so it has been, she's literally been through hell in 2020.
Yeah.
And
I'm so sorry. We
I'm
unfortunately have had a few prayer requests come in with that, and it's just, yeah, I'm so sorry. I really am.
so your stories are so encouraging. Thank
There's
you.
hope,
Deb.
there's joy, and this ultimately is not our home. So
Yeah, it's not right.
praise God for that.
Okay, I'll send you all the recording and thank you so much.